Welcome to the Edinburgh Fringe. And a question. What is hell? And is it anything to do with the festival? Yes, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome once more to Edinburgh, the capital city of Scotland, and for August, the capital city of the arts world, as we fill the city with stages, with shows, with comics, with theatre, and everything else you can possibly imagine. Even a man trying to fold a fitted sheet at the top of Arthur's Seat, which was a wonderful PR stunt. To the point that I remember the stunt, but I can't remember the performer's name. Anyway, easily enough to Google on all the big news sites. But the Fringe is going to the big news sites, the small, the independent websites, the occasional podcast, the occasional radio show. Hello. And look, there's no way that I can capture all of that. You know that over 20 odd years, it's always been about getting a flavour of the festival. And there's so many ways to find that flavour. And here we are in the first full week of the Fringe. We've had the first big weekend. And that means that the first wave of reviews are out here. And you get them at all the various Fringe websites and the big media papers and all of that as well. And it also means that you'll get the best of those reviews pasted up outside the venues by their own PR team, trying to tempt you in, alongside the coloured posters, the shows, and the stars deciding how good the stars in the show were. But do you remember that reviewers only get to some of the shows? You won't have any publication that reviews every show out there, so do use them as a guide, but be open to everything. On to today's guest. It is Saaniya Abbas from the United Arab Emirates comedy scene. She is the first local comic there to officially debut a solo show at the Edinburgh Fringe. How do you go from a sheltered upbringing in New Delhi to a sometimes controversial comedy career? We talk about her background and her first steps into comedy, how it felt performing in front of friends and workmates, stepping forward from there, finding wider acclaim, performing to international audiences, and turning the hobby into a profession. Saaniya Abbas joins me now. Welcome to the show, Sanniya.
Thank you.
And the show is Hellarious. Tell us about the show.
Well, the show is really about it's about my life in the last 5 years and a little bit of a background story because I'm a Muslim but a non-practicing one. And when I was growing up, my mother always told me I would go to hell because of any little small errors I would make. She would tell me you're going to end up in hell. So I kind of leaned into that as I got older. I leaned into that, and I thought it was quite funny to explore that in my comedy because I actually Googled Islamic hell, and it's pretty bad in like the most hilarious way possible. And there's all these really specific things that you're going to find if you end up, well, when I end up in Islamic hell. And so I decided to write a whole set about it. And I'm really glad I did because I've learned a lot of things about Islam that I did not know before.
What was the most surprising thing you learned?
Well, the most surprising thing I learned was probably more about heaven than hell, to be honest. In heaven, the streets of heaven, they say, are made to look identical to where you grew up so that you feel like you're home. But I grew up in New Delhi, you see, so my heaven's going to be full of cows and dogs and poop and everything. So that was pretty surprising. You know, even when you go to heaven, your passport matters somehow. So I was quite upset by that one.
You talked there about how you're building this up into your stand-up career, but take me back a step or two before that. How did you get involved? Because looking through your biography, it's not a traditional route into stand-up.
No, I actually never ever wanted to be a stand-up comedian. It never even crossed my mind. I had a very ordinary job. And I still have it because comedy doesn't pay you money in Dubai. I had a very ordinary 9 to 5 job. I was married. I had a very simple life, and then I got divorced. And that was a very difficult thing to go through. And when I was getting divorced, when you've been with someone for so long, you kind of lose yourself and you try to figure out who you are without that person. So I spent some time trying to figure out who I was. And I just took a random stand-up comedy workshop, like on a whim, just as a good distraction. Maybe I'll figure something out about myself just as a hobby. And it just felt so good to make people laugh. That was such a magical, just weirdly rewarding feeling that I had never felt in such a structured way before. Like I've made people laugh unintentionally, but this felt really like this could be a purpose. And what a beautiful purpose to have, to make people laugh. And I really enjoyed making people laugh. But I have to say, initially, I wasn't that good at it. I managed like one laugh or two, but I was making jokes I think that anyone can make, in the beginning. And I wasn't really talking about myself. And eventually, because I was going through my divorce, I started writing jokes about my divorce. And that was the first time I really felt like the audience saw me and connected with me. And it was also very therapeutic in a way to be able to joke about my divorce. And that's when it really stuck. And that's when I realized I want to keep doing this because it's actually helping me.
What was that gig like? Because you must have walked out on stage not feeling the genuine you, and
Mhm.
then walked off stage, what, 10 minutes later or so, finding the real you. How do you look back on that 10 minutes of your life?
Honestly, I remember it so clearly. It's one of those nights that I will never forget. And no one's ever asked me, actually. I was at this gig and I had just been fired from this job so I got divorced, got fired, got COVID all in like 1 month. So just a few months before that, I had been fired from this job. And a lot of my colleagues, ex-colleagues, happened to be there. And these were people I didn't really speak to much. I didn't really know them because I was very introverted at work, and they were all there. And on this huge table full of my ex-colleagues, and I had written on this little piece of paper these notes about this joke I was going to do about my divorce. And I just remember thinking, if these jokes don't work, that's going to be really humiliating on stage in front of these ex-colleagues who don't even know that I'm a comedian or I'm trying to be a comedian. So when I went on stage, I was fully shaking. I was shaking, and I was like, I don't know if this doesn't do well, I'm going to cry, because it was something so vulnerable that I was going to talk about, and it was something so honest that I had to get a laugh. And if they didn't laugh, I was really frightened of what might happen. So when they did laugh, and they laughed a lot, and the whole room was like really into it, and I felt more confident, but it was like this rush I had never felt. It was like a drug almost, and when I got off, for the first time, I felt like a comedian. That was the first time.
That rush you felt,
Mhm.
do you still feel that?
I mean, there are once you start to feel like a comedian and you get the hang of it, and then you have back to back good gigs, and you're like, oh, there's that drug that I feel. But once in a while, you have bad gigs. It happens. Um, and I think you just keep chasing that hit again because you're like, I need to feel that again. And I'm not going to stop until I feel that again. So you just keep chasing it. And now I think the bar keeps getting higher and higher. So even if I have a good gig, now the bar is higher. So I think, but it wasn't as good as that one. And I need something to match that one. It's like a drug, it really is.
Let's skip forward a whole bundle of development because you are coming to Edinburgh,
Mm-hmm.
both a melting pot of arts and theatre and comedy, but also a crucible where careers can rise and fall in the matter of a night. How does that compare to the feeling of that transformative gig?
I'm not that scared of my career not my career failing in comedy. I'm quite confident of my material and being funny and being a comedian. What I'm more worried about is being away from home and my mental state. And, I'm going to be working my day job remotely while I'm at Edinburgh, which is a very difficult feat that I have to mentally prepare for. But really, when it comes to, or maybe I'm sure maybe some people won't like my comedy. It's like, it's very subjective. Not everyone's going to like it. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Uh, but as long as I make people laugh, I'm not so worried about my career failing. I don't think I'm going to Edinburgh to get discovered, to be one of those. I mean, that would be great if I did. No, I'm not going to be like, oh, nobody discovered me. Ew. No, that would be wonderful. Or to become famous, that would be such a huge bonus. But I'm going to Edinburgh, so I know that I can do these many days, a month of back to back shows. And every comedian I've met who's done the Edinburgh Fringe has told me that at the end of it, they're a different comedian. And I want to see who I become at the end of that. And that's very interesting for me. I want to make people laugh. And I just want to have good shows, really.
That's why I was getting the idea of transformative this run at Edinburgh.
Mhm.
Have you had to balance gigs and remote work at any other point in the last year or so?
Not like this. The only way that I could get this time off, I could do the Edinburgh Fringe, was if I worked it out with my boss. If I managed to work remotely, but only 4 hours every day. So if I do that, I can do the Edinburgh Fringe without completely going bankrupt. So I'm still earning money from my day job, and I'm going to be doing the Fringe, which is difficult, but I think I can do it. I think I have to do it. I don't have a choice.
You've talked briefly about the show there and Hellarious. We touched on it at the
Mhm.
start, but take us a little bit deeper. Tell us a little bit about the show, but tell us also a little bit about the style of comedy you do. Who are you hoping to get in the audience?
Honestly, the Brits really seem to enjoy my humor. I first went to America when I first went outside of the UAE to perform. The first place I went to was New York, and that was wow, it was amazing. It isn't it a completely different experience performing for the West instead of the Middle East, which is where I started comedy. And then I went to England, which was a completely different experience from America because the English seemed to get my humor even more. They seemed to, I didn't even have to finish some jokes. I would just look at them and they would laugh. And I really enjoyed that. I feel like I connected a lot with the British audience. Um, I think I don't really have a niche that I'm looking for in the audience. I would love to have all sorts of people. I really like it when people like me are in the audience, like Muslims who are, especially women who are non-practicing like me. I've had a lot of people come to me after shows and tell me that they felt like it was them on stage and it was their story. And that feels really good. I never expected that. It felt really good whenever it's happened. So that would be great.
You mentioned there from UAE doing the comedy in Dubai. The audience makeup must be different, So you talked earlier about feeling a little bit vulnerable when you were going out and your ex work colleagues there. How do you feel walking out onto a British stage?
To be completely honest, I do think the Middle East is much more of a cultural melting pot than anywhere else that been in the world. In Dubai, you get a very mixed audience. You get Americans, you get British people, you get um, Arabs, Indians, people from everywhere in the audience. When I went to England to perform, I was a bit nervous because it was a place I had never performed in before. And my ex-husband, I do a lot of divorce jokes, was British. And that was my only connection with England before, was that I used to go there all the time to meet my in-laws. And here I am joking about them. So I was a bit nervous because I just didn't know how they would receive it. But the first place I think I ever performed in England was in this little room called Top Secret Comedy Club in London. And I call it the room of the gods. It is. you feel like the comedy gods are in the air in that room, because the tickets are only £1 to enter. So obviously all the British people, they love to drink, they buy it for £1, they're all drunk in there. And oh, they're so ready to laugh. And that feeling of just being in this new country, this on this stage for the first time in England, and you have 250 people just laughing so hard. And that was the best feeling. I had a great time.
What are you expecting from Edinburgh?
Honestly, I feel like I didn't fully get to experience it that much last year because I was only there for 4 days, right? And I had friends who had been for Stamp Town, which I didn't get to see because I wasn't there on the right days. And the Stomp Town or the Stamp Town? Stomp Town. Yes, and this one, the way my friends described it to me, right? I'm only used to traditional stand-up comedy. I had never had my mind exposed to this kind of alternative comedy craft before. It had just never been in my periphery. And I remember I went for this one alternative comedy night where this one woman went on stage and she did her whole set in a language nobody knew. She did it, I think, in Norwegian or something. And nobody knew, and she didn't speak a word of English, but she kept trying to make the audience understand what she's trying to say. And that made it so funny. I mean, I was crying with laughter. And it just changed the way I look at comedy because she made people laugh. And that's comedy. A lot of people are very prude about what comedy means and what stand-up comedy, the limitations might be. But I saw one show in which someone used like a whole PowerPoint presentation, and that was hilarious as well. So, and there was one in which this man, he went on stage and he put on this duck beak on his face and he pretended to be a detective. It was just the weirdest. It was like I was in an alternate dimension. And that was so cool, but I still didn't get to see all of it. So this year, I'm hoping to explore even more and just kind of just get to experience as much as I can in like this crazy world that happens once a year.
There are so many shows. I can give you a list of recommendations afterwards. But like, half the battle and the fun of the Fringe is just stopping at a door going, oh, there's a show on, and going in here and seeing it. But we can't guarantee that will get to your shows. So if people wanted to make sure they get to your show, this is a smooth link, by the way, folks. Where can people find your show?
Okay, so I will be at the Gilded Balloon in this place called the Petter House. And at 8 p.m. every single night, no breaks, I will be at the Petter House. So please come in at 8 p.m. You will find me there.
And that is running right through until the 25th. We will have a link into the box office on our website so you can buy the tickets direct. And that's edinburghfringe.thepodcastcorner.com. That has never changed in over 20 years. So there you go. But for now, Sanniya, delight to talk to you. It's going to be wonderful to know that we're just another little step on your journey through comedy up to the Fringe, up to Edinburgh and beyond. Where can people find out more about you online?
Well, I'm on Instagram. My Instagram page is SAANIYAX. So my name and an X.
And we will have a link back to that on our website as well. Once more, Sanniya, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for having me, Ewan.
Saaniya Abbas there on the show Hellarious. It's on at Gilded Balloon Petter House, 8 p.m. right through until the 25th. That's the Monday. Most shows will go to the 24th. Some of them will go to the 25th if you just want a little extra day, a little bit of a wind down at the Fringe. So as always, check listings for details. You will get links direct into the box office at our website for all the shows mentioned, including Hellarious. That's at edinburghfringe.thepodcastcorner.com. The main website for the official Fringe is edfringe.com. And if you're looking for Sanniya's website, we will have that on our website as well. Right, and with that, it is back into the Fringe I go. Back tomorrow with more interviews. And until then, do, as always, stay safe, be kind, and if you get the opportunity, link, like, love, share, subscribe, and leave the star reviews for this podcast as well. They all help other people find the show. But for now, ta-ra. You've been listening to the Edinburgh Fringe Show, hosted by Ewan Spence, produced by the Podcast Corner for Spence Media and Radio 6 International. Listen to more from The Fringe at edinburghfringe.thepodcastcorner.com.